Okay, everybody. Little bit of review on the factoring methods. So, first off, we always want to try to look for a greatest common factor. That should be the first thing we do in every problem that gets factored. So, if I look here, do I have a coefficient 2, 3, 20? That is a greatest common factor. 2, 3, 20. Gonna need some help, folks, or we're not gonna get to that scavenger hunt. 2, 3, and 20. Do I have a GCF? It's 1, so that's really not a GCF. Do I have X's in all the terms? No. So there's no GCF. So this is a trinomial, so we need a 2 by 2 box. First term goes in the first slots, last term goes in the last slots. When I multiply together, I get negative 40. I am not worried about the x squared, I'm just going to put the x's in the boxes. Okay? So now I need the factors for negative 40 that combine to give me the middle term, which is 3. So basically, my negative 40 goes on top. My 3 goes on the bottom. Did anybody find the factors? What'd you get, Andrew?
Negative 5 and 8.
Okay, negative 5 and positive 8. When I multiply those together, I get negative 40. When I add them together, I get 3. Question on that? Okay, so we're going to put a negative 5 in one of the boxes and 8 in the other. If you have these flipped, it doesn't matter. You will still get the right answer. Okay, so now greatest common factor here, X. Greatest common factor here is not 8, it's 4. GCF here is 2X, and GCF here is negative 5. And remember, we pull a negative out when it shows up in both of them. Okay? So now when I set up my factors, I've got X and 4, and I've got 2X minus 5. I look at the magic numbers and realize that the signs are different. I already have my minus sign, so I need my plus. And like I told you before, y'all, on standardized tests, they're not going to have both of those. Because if they have them both, you can work this backwards and multiply. And if they really want to see if you know how to factor, they're only going to have one of these. So notice it says, which expression is a factor? So it's just one of these. So the correct answer was D. How many people got that? Okay, that's not a lot. Not a lot. Some people might want to be watching some videos this weekend because this is going to be kind of what your test looks like. Okay. All right. What's the first thing I need to ask myself? It's number 1, right up over my head. Wait. First thing I need to ask myself. It's on the flip chart. Number 1, right up over my head. Yeah, we need to look for GCF. So is there one between 25 and 64? It's not. How about, do I have X's in both terms? Nope. Do I have Y's in both terms? I don't have a GCF, folks. Okay? Now, if you were to do this by the box method, you know, it's going to be really difficult. What you should realize is 25 is a perfect square, 64 is a perfect square, x squared is a perfect square, y squared is a perfect square. This is a difference of perfect squares. And I showed you all the pattern. The pattern is one side plus, one side minus. 25 breaks down into 5 and 5. X squared breaks down into x and x. Tell me about 64. It's got to be the same numbers. 8 and 8. Tell me about y squared. Y and y. And the one factor that is there is 5x plus 8y. And y'all might just want to write this, difference of squares. So there's a pattern there. All right. Okay, what's the first thing I need to ask myself? I mean, instead of the scavenger hunt, we could just do an exit ticket. Doesn't look like we're going to get to the scavenger hunt. First thing I need to ask myself. Is there a greatest common
Junior Beta
factor?
Club, you are now dismissed to the gym for pictures. Junior Beta Club, you are now dismissed to the gym for pictures.
6, 5, and 1, is there a GCF? Nope. It's 1, but 1 doesn't matter. X's? Nope, because they're not in every term. So, going to set up a 2x2 box. This has 3 terms in it. Going to set up a 2x2 box. 6x squared goes top left. 1 goes bottom right. I'm not worried about the x squared because I'm just going to break that out with the x's in the boxes. When I multiply, I get 6. So 6 goes on top. What number am I trying to add to get to? -5. Did y'all come up with the numbers? Okay, -3 and -2. Okay, folks, you got to remember this. The 6 is difficult, and here's the reason why. Because you might think 6 and 1 work. Because when you multiply 6 and 1, you get 6. But y'all, if I add these, I get 7. And if I make them both negative, I get -7. And if I change one of the signs, y'all, then it doesn't multiply to be a +6. So the only factors are -3 and -2. Okay, so we're going to put -3 and -2 in the boxes. GCF here is X. GCF here is 1. GCF here is 2X. And GCF here is, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Right here is 3X, my fault. Between 3 and 6, it's 3X. Okay? GCF here is 2X. GCF here is 1. So I'm going to set up my parentheses. I have a 3X and a 1, and I've got a 2X and a 1. And I look back, and what do both of my signs need to be? They both need to be minus signs. So that is going to be letter C. Okie dokie. All right, we're going to practice more. We're going to practice the ones that require this. So you can choose to do it on paper, or you can choose to have a whiteboard. Okay? We're going to do that. All right. All right, folks, let's settle down. Tucker. Okay, so what I want to try now is, y'all, I want you to get good with realizing these two things have to be checked first. So I'm letting you know right now, there is a number that you're going to pull out, and you are going to have to pull the negative out with it. The reason why is the squared term is negative. We do not want to fool with that. So I would have to pull out a -1, but I'm letting you know ahead of time, between 6, 16, and 8, negative something else is going to come out. So you're going to pull out negative something else and set up a parenthesis. In other words, you're going to factor by greatest common factor first. So I'm going to pause for a couple of seconds, and I am strongly recommending you pull out your greatest common factor and not wait for me to give it to you. And here in a minute, and make yourself a big old parenthesis here, folks. And here in a second, we'll talk about what that greatest common factor is. So start thinking, what is your greatest common factor up there to pull out? Okay, we already know the negative's got to come out. Does anybody know what the coefficient is?
Tara.
-2 comes out. Okay, so we're going to divide by -2 everywhere. And now I want you to fill in the parentheses. Again, I'm going to pause for you and hope you're going to do that without me. Hang on, you're way ahead of me. Hold on. All right, hopefully you got a, hey everybody, shh. Hopefully you got a positive 3x squared here. Negative divided by negative is positive. Here, negative divided by negative is positive 8x. Here, negative divided by negative would be a positive 4. Did you get that? Okay, now what I want you to do is look inside of here. Do you see we've got a trinomial? So you're going to set up a 2 by 2 box. So your final answer, don't forget that -2 is going to be part of your final answer, but you can ignore it for the next step. Okay, so you are now factoring this guy right here by our method. So I'm going to pause and let you give that. Okay. Your magic numbers were 6 and 2. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 plus 2 is 8. So again, if you have yours in the opposite spots here, this was up top for you and this was on the side. Same thing. So GCF here's 3x. Here it's a 2. Here it's just an x. And here it's a 2. And then when you look back, both your signs are positive. Please remember, this has to come down as part of your answer. It's got to come down as part of your answer. Because it is part of the original problem. Okay? Any question on that one? Okay. Let's do another one. All right, we've got to pull something out as a GCF. What is it? Not 1. I think I heard it, but we don't pull a 1 out because a 1 doesn't change anything, but y'all are missing something. Two will not go into 15. It's not 2. You know, you're getting close with the 1. You've missed something. Got to pull out a negative. Who knows why? Says it right up above my head.
Because the leading term is a negative.
The r squared is negative, folks. We do not want to work a problem out with that. So you are going to pull out a -1 and you're going to factor by greatest common factor method first. What does that do, really? When I just pull out a -1, what's that doing on the inside? That's it. So now your r squared is positive. Now this is a positive 2r, and now this is a -15. Now you are ready to do a 2 by 2 box for this right here, and I'm going to demonstrate from the beginning. R squared, first term, first slot. -15, last term, last slot. I'm going to go ahead and put the r's here. When I multiply, I get a -15. I am adding to get to 2. We already gave up the magic numbers. The magic numbers are +5 and -3. Why? Because when I add, I get a +2. When I multiply, I get a -15. Doesn't matter which one of these go where. GCF here is R. GCF here, we pull out the negative and it's -3. If you flip these, then your R minus 3 is up top. Doesn't matter. You're still in good shape. Okay, here it's an R and here it's a 5. Okay, so y'all, another thing. Y'all, it doesn't matter if the R minus 3 goes in that parenthesis or that one. It doesn't matter. Okay? And then R and 5. Again, R and 5 could come first. It doesn't matter. Okay? Signs are different. I need different signs. So one of your factors is R plus 5, and one of your factors is R minus 3, and then yes, negative 1 is part of the factor. Question on that? Okay. So, on the left, do I need to pull out a negative 1? Nope, because the b squared term is not negative. Is there a greatest common factor between 3, 10, and 8? It is not, and there's not b. So y'all, this is, you just go straight to your factoring method. This right here, if you know the pattern, you do not need to do a thing. This is difference, and these are perfect squares. So I'm going to let you do both of those. All right, I'm going to take the first step for you. First term, first slot. Last term, last slot. B's go in the empty boxes. When I multiply, I get negative 24. What do I need to combine to get? Middle term, negative 10. Okay? Okay, this time I'm going to do a further demonstration. Folks, if you cannot find those factors on your own, I highly recommend that you try it, but if you can't, last resort is you go to y equals in your calculator. You put this term, the one on top, negative 24 divided by x in your calculator under y equals. Y equals is here. Then you go to your table, which is the other side here, and you have to press the second button. Now what you do, y'all, is you scroll up and down and you look for the ones that combine to negative 10. So if you scroll, here's a big sign there. That's going to give you positive 10. So probably these signs are going to be switched. So when you come down, it's that pair right there. The magic numbers are positive 2 and negative 12. Now, I'm going to pause again. All right, so I'm going to move to this one. Difference of squares means one of these signs is plus and one is minus. The terms are going to be identical. So for the first term, what's going to go in these first slots? 10x. Because 10 times 10 is 100. And remember with this, y'all, these numbers have to be the same. That's why these have to be perfect squares. Okay? 10x and 10x. For the last term, what goes in the last slots? Okay, 7. Now tell me about the power on the y, folks. Y'all, it's a 3. The reason why is, unlike coefficients, I'm adding powers. When I add powers, I get to the 6. This is called a difference of squares. Folks, if this was your problem right here, they will test you on it, I will test you on it. Y'all, if that is your problem, it cannot be factored. What did I change? Yeah, y'all, this is not a difference of squares. This is a sum of squares. You cannot factor that. Cannot be factored. Okay? All right, let's move to this guy. Okay, GCF here is B. GCF here is a 1. Oh, I didn't put my magic numbers in. Hang on. Doggone. 2, negative 12. My fault. GCF here is B. GCF here is a negative 4. Remember to pull your negatives out when they show up twice. GCF here is 3B, and GCF here is 2. So I'm going to set my parentheses up. I got a B minus 4, and I got a 3B and a 2, and signs are different, so I need a plus sign there. Again, if your 3B plus 2 is written first, it is fine. The reason why is these are factors. The operation in between those parentheses is multiplication. So it would be like saying 5 times 4 is the same thing as 4 times 5, and it is, right? 5 times 4 and 4 times 5 is the same thing, right? Okay, that's why it doesn't matter which parenthesis comes first. Okay? All right, let's do another one.
Can you go back on?
I can.
So which was the answer then?
Oh, the answer is the factored form. It doesn't matter. Okay. Last pair. Last pair before we do our scavenger hunt. Okay, this one here, both of these are going to apply. So both of these are going to apply. You're going to have to pull something out and set up a big parenthesis first. So you're trying to figure out, what are you pulling out?
High school D&D is now dismissed to the gym for pictures. High school D&D is now dismissed to the gym for pictures.
Has anybody figured out what needs to come out? Negative, because the leading coefficient is negative, and yes, a 2 will go into all of those. So next step would be divide everything by -2 and figure out what goes in your parenthesis. So I just divided everything by -2. Now fix what's in parentheses. Okay, so hopefully you found m squared for the first term, -8m for the middle term, and +12. So now we're going to focus on that trinomial in the middle. And don't forget, when you write your answer, what should be out in front? What should be out in front? -2. Okay, when you get done with that, see if you can do the difference of squares without the boxes. Okay, let's do the magic numbers and then I'll stop. What are the magic numbers?
-6 and
-6 and -2 are the magic numbers. I'll stop again. Okay, so I'm going to put m's here, -6, -2, and let's do GCFs. First column, m, second column is a 6. First row is an m, second row is a 2. So I have an m and a 6, an m and a 2. I look back, both my signs are minus signs when I look back at my numbers. Question on that? Again, the m minus 2 could have been the first parenthesis. Okay, difference of squares. One sign negative, one sign positive. First term. What are my matching factors?
5 and 6.
Well, first term. 5a squared. Last term. What are my matching factors? 6B to the 5th. There you go.